Well, good morning, everybody. It's Sunday, May 12th, one of the best days of the year for sure. It's sunny to partly cloudy, calm, and 12 degrees. Beautiful here right now, no wind. Just heading out for my morning dog walk and bird watching walk, and I'll bring you along with me. I've had some really outstanding birding days here on the farm over the last week or so. A few days ago, I had a count of 75 species, which might be a record. Now, in all truthfulness, I did go on the neighboring property as well, and that added a few species that I probably wouldn't have gotten on our property, but anyhow, it's still a good tally for a 2-hour walk in the morning, so that's nice to get those days. Doesn't happen that often. And I had about 70 species yesterday down on the Cataraqui and KMP trails south of Harrowsmith, so there's been some really good diversity of birds out here so far this spring. This morning's sounding and looking good so far. I'm doing my typical tally using eBird. "10 minutes in and I'm at 23 species already. It goes fast here. We have a diversity of species because we have both forest and field and some wetland habitat around, so you get a range of species using the farm here that you wouldn't necessarily get if you were in a more homogeneous habitat. Unfortunately, it's usually around when the birds are hitting their peak here too on the farm that you're also hitting the start and major peak of mosquito season. So far the mosquitoes haven't been too terrible, but they are popping out, and I've already noticed today, even before I get into the woods, that more of them are out and biting a bit. So we are advanced this year compared to most springs. Things are further along at this point. One of the reasons I often think of May 12th as one of the best days of the year is it was around this time when I was younger that a bunch of us used to head down to Point Pelee for a whole weekend of birding in spring, and it was usually that May 10th, 11th, 12th weekend. And I remember May 12th a lot, being sort of the prime start of birding season, at least in a big way, down at Point Pelee. So that's one of the reasons I think of it as the perfect day or the best day of the year, often with the greatest abundance of birds, depending on the weather and whatnot, but that's why I always think of it as one of the best days of the year for sure. And this morning is just beautiful here. We've got sun off to the east, but dark skies off to the west, but the clouds don't seem to be moving too quickly, and it's just beautiful out. It's probably about 13 degrees right now. Not much wind, just a little bit of wind. Pine warbler singing up here. Just a dry trill basically from the tops of the pine trees. This short section of roadway bordering one part of our property is really good for finding a bunch of other species because there's forested swamps on each side of the road here. So typically here I'll pick up things like northern water thrush, which you can probably hear in the background singing, common yellow-throats. I hear a leaf flycatcher. Yellow-throated vireo hangs out here quite a bit over the last few years. There's the yellow-throated vireo, tops of the trees. I'm also hearing a bird along here that I've never heard right in this location because of the nature of the habitat. There's a brown thrasher singing up here. They're not typically found in swamps. But this morning, for whatever reason, there's one here singing. I also forgot to mention another common bird that I get along here, swamp sparrows. And I've been having a yellow warbler here lately. And sometimes I'll get chestnut-sided warblers as well. Well, at just after 8 o'clock, I'm at 37 species. The warbler species don't seem to be as abundant today coming through here, but maybe they'll improve as we start going back through the woods. It can vary like that. You can get buildups of them for a day or two or a few days, and then they move north, and then you're left with a sort of a vacancy for a day or two until some new ones come in to fill the backlog. When you're bird watching, I don't think it can be overemphasized how important it is to take regular stops just to listen. Stand around for a few minutes. I find that when I do that, I almost always hear something new that I wasn't hearing as I was walking. Almost all the time. So it's really important just to stop and listen. Obviously, this means more when you can actually identify the birds by their sounds, but even if you can't do that effectively, you might just be drawn to the movement of birds around you that you hadn't otherwise seen as well. And then you can look at them and then identify them from there. Just found a big Blandings turtle out wandering around down here in the ditch. I'm just going to take him back into the forest a little bit here to let him go in the swamp a little deeper away from the road. I just hate to think of these guys coming out on the road and getting run over, which happens quite often, unfortunately. As we move through the forest here, I can hear a hermit thrush singing in the background. Beautiful song. I don't think you'll be able to hear it on here. It's quite faint. Maybe I'll see if I can get closer to it once I get rid of this turtle. Ovenbird singing there, the loud one. Okay, I've brought the turtle back in a few hundred feet off the road to a safer location in our forested swamp. And there's a matrix of small pools throughout this area. Unfortunately, they're ephemeral in nature. They can dry up in the summer, which probably forces these turtles to move elsewhere, but I often do find them around here, so they seem to like living here when the water's here. And here he is at the edge. And this is a big turtle. You can see him compared to my shoe size. That's a size 12 shoe. I'd say he's a good 9 inches shell length, 10 inches maybe. So Blandings turtles have a hinged plastron. The plastron is the undersurface portion of the shell. And you can see right here there's a fairly big line across, and this allows this turtle to close up this section of the plastron right with the top part of the shell to give him more protection. Beautiful turtle. Hopefully he'll like it here. 43 species of birds now at 8:30. Again, the warblers are kind of absent today for whatever reason. I'm not getting a lot of diversity through the woods here either. The main one here being the ovenbird, which is singing everywhere right now, but they're usually always common in our forest. That hermit thrush is a little far off to the distant side there, so I'm not sure I'm going to go chasing it down. You might be able to hear it in the background. Here's a little cluster of oak ferns that we have growing out in the woods. Well, the clouds are moving in from the east, which is a bit surprising, but I know there is a low pressure system down there south of the lakes and it's spinning this way, so that's why it's coming from the east. So 9:10 now, and we've got 48 species, so the warblers continue to be largely absent. Yeah, the leaves are really popping out now. Getting very dense out here. You can't see through the forest like you could a few weeks ago. The nice bright green of spring. Well, we're just over 2 hours in and 4.76 kilometers of walking. I added a little bit to this walk today. And are at 52 species. That's pretty good, but certainly not quite like the 75 I had the other day. But not too bad. Saw a few different things that I hadn't seen recently, so nice morning to get out. And I hope you enjoyed this walk around the farm on Sunday, May 12th, 2024. So after 133 minutes, I ended up with 53 species. I'll just list them here. I won't tell you the numbers that I got, but I'll just list the individual species. Pigeon, mourning dove, killdeer, Wilson snipe, common loon, belted kingfisher, yellow-bellied sapsucker, downy and hairy woodpecker, northern flicker, American kestrel, least flycatcher, phoebe, great crested flycatcher, eastern kingbird, yellow-throated vireo, red-eyed vireo, blue jay, crow, raven, black-capped chickadee, tree swallow, white-breasted nuthatch, red-breasted nuthatch, brown creeper, house wren, European starling, brown thrasher, veery, hermit thrush, wood thrush, American robin, American pipit, goldfinch, chipping sparrow, song sparrow, swamp sparrow, eastern meadowlark, Baltimore oriole, red-winged blackbird, brown-headed cowbird, common grackle, ovenbird, northern water thrush, black and white warbler, Nashville warbler, common yellow throat, yellow warbler, pine warbler, yellow rumped warbler, scarlet tanager, northern cardinal, and rose-breasted grosbeak. So there you have the list, folks, after 2 hours and 10 minutes or so.